All right, boom, ladies and gentlemen, we have here someone who is absolutely sensational. We have Arfeen Khan. Now, I'm going to give a little bit of an introduction to this gentleman. So, Arfeen Khan has, for almost 25 years, worked with over 600,000 people in over 49 countries. Now, that is just a feat in itself, right? And look, I can see him smirking. If you're catching the videos, obviously, you know, it's always fun hearing someone else talk about you, but it really is pretty sensational. And to really kind of put this into perspective about how amazing this guy is. So he's an author, a coach, a CEO, a husband, and a father. And this man is known for, 10 amazing best-selling books. He's a coach to the people, the stars, and billionaires worldwide. And that sounds pretty amazing, but I want to kind of stress that this guy isn't just your local personal development coach. This guy is a coach to the people, the stars, and billionaires around the world. So it's a pretty sure thing that this man knows how to draw a crowd, but more importantly, create life-changing transformation in all of his students around the world. All right. He considers all people intrinsically the same, but what sets them apart and determines their future is the reach of their thoughts and ambitions, which is so absolutely powerful. So Arfeen Khan, just so you guys know, is not just a man self-proclaiming his greatness. Tony Robbins has praised Arfeen and said that Arfeen Khan is a person of spirit, insight, leadership, and talent. He comes along to lead a generation of people who are new, fresh, and wholly inviting a place of understanding and love. So this guy is the real deal. So Arfeen, welcome to the party. How are you today?
Good. Thank you very much for having me on. I really, really appreciate it. That introduction was really good. Were you talking about me? That was pretty.
That was great, Ken. Even I was blown away. That was fantastic.
Awesome. Look, I mean, it's pretty easy to find really great information about Arfeen because you're everywhere on the internet. Now, this guy isn't a guy just traipsing around. He's got the blue ticks everywhere, not just on Instagram or Facebook and Twitter. This guy's got Wikipedia pages. He's the real deal. He's the, as we'd say over here in Australia, the real McCoy.
Yeah. I've been to Australia once. I went to Sydney, maybe 20 years ago. And beautiful. I mean, I had a great time, beautiful people. So, I'm going to come there soon, right?
Yeah, good. Well, look, before we dive straight into this, because I know I've got some questions that I like to ask every single guest when they come on board, but tell us a little bit about yourself. How does someone become the real Arfeen Khan?
Well, what's interesting is that if I go back to my early days, I'm from London originally. I spent a lot of time traveling between London, India, Dubai right now. When I was at school, I was one of those kind of shy guys, wasn't really sure of myself. I didn't realize I was bullied until many years later. I kind of realized, oh my God, I was bullied, Didn't do well at school at all. Failed my English 3 times, failed my mathematics 3 times. I wasn't able to do absolutely anything. It was almost impossible for me to succeed. My teachers told me I was an idiot. The only thing that was strong for me was my family. See, my parents, they don't come from a very rich background, but I've seen them working hard, and ethics, integrity, and values were very, very important in my house. There's 7 of us living in a 3-bedroom house. It wasn't easy, but we were always happy. The home was a happy space. So I've never felt that I wasn't good enough, but the school system actually made me feel that I was absolutely useless because I kept failing. But lucky, if I didn't have my strong family, I probably wouldn't know what the hell I'd be doing right now. So 19, my dad asked me a question, what are you going to do with your life in 5 years? And that kind of scared me because I couldn't think about what I'm going to do in 5 days, forget 5 years. But sometimes these things wake you up and you kind of start thinking about what is life all about. So I started a business with my brother, and within 2 years, my whole life changed. Financially, making a fortune, driving the nice cars and everything. But I realized that, it didn't really change much about me. My self-confidence was still low. It was more of an act at that time. Then 24, I'm completely broke. I've lost all my money. And that's when everything changed, because I decided that I'm never going to be in a space again where I will be an unhappy man because of my circumstances. I have to find a way to understand, how do I keep my state high? So despite the tornadoes or the hurricanes or the pain that's inevitable, I should stand strong. And over the years, I kind of worked a lot of things out, not through reading books, because I think that's a good thing, but it doesn't really change much. Not by motivation. And believe it or not, I'm not a big believer in motivation and positive thinking. I think it's a bit of an overhyped concept. I think that, it's more about rolling your sleeves up, looking in the mirror and saying, what do I need to do? And moving on. So to cut long story short, from 24 until now, all I did was change my perception of who I was. That's all I did. I decided I'm a happy man. I decided I'm a good man. But my brain needed evidence for that. I needed evidence. Am I really good? Because no point in saying I'm strong, and your little voice is saying you liar, right? So I thought I need to give evidence. And the evidence comes in the form of small breakthroughs. I started losing weight. I was quite large. I started earning money. I started saving money. I started reading, studying, evaluating people. And one day, I'm doing what I'm doing now. And it's really hard to even sometimes, I pinch myself and say, is this really the same guy? Honestly. I just think having good people around you, that's really, everyone knows it, but it's such a hack. It's such a huge hack, because if I look back now, probably everything I've ever have achieved is because of the surroundings of the people around me. I really believe that.
Yeah, I got some questions with that one. So you spoke about you became quite successful quite young before you lost it and then had to rebuild. So my obvious first question is, what was your first business?
Okay, so I started selling water filters. My brother was the one that started it. I kind of was in the background, and I used to watch him, and he was very confident. He's always a confident guy. He was the achiever. He was selling, running shoes when he was 11 in the market.
Wow. Okay.
He was very, very ambitious. I wasn't. I always thought, my God, look at him. He's amazing. So I think I learned how to. I've always believed making money is not very difficult. It's a thing in my head. I just always felt it's not difficult. So I didn't find it hard to make money, but I forgot to add the rest of it, that saving and investing money is an art. So I made money. So I don't know what to do with it. So I started spending it on stupid things that today, if you look back, why did I need a Ferrari at 21? I didn't. I could have invested that money and bought that from the money my money makes. But of course, I was young. So I think I only became successful in that business because my brother was ambitious. Again, the people around me. Otherwise, I would never have done it. I wouldn't have.
Are you still very close with your brother? Like, do you do business together?
Absolutely. In fact, we've been partners from day one, and we're partners now. Even if we're not working in the same business, it's considered that we're 50-50 partners in everything we do. It's just the way it is.
That's a beautiful thing. That's pretty rare, hey?
Yeah. So, like, for example, I was running this particular business for 10 years by myself, and my brother was doing real estate, but we were 50-50 partners and everything. It's just the way it's understood. So it is rare, and it's very special and really meaningful.
That's pretty amazing how you can obviously have that really, really good connection with your family, because you hear the age-old saying, right? Don't do business with family. But it's amazing when you have that trust, when you have that connection, when you have that love, and you have that support, that can really, really work. So, Arfeen, you've created amazing businesses, right? Not just, and when we talk about your business, really, we can look at it from different entities and different offerings that you have. You have, different coaching programs, from how to increase your wealth through different investment strategies. You have personal development opportunities. You have how to become a coach themselves. So all of these different, arms of who you are, Arfeen Khan. But from what you've learned of becoming a businessman, and becoming a personal development coach and a wealth coach, a leader, a husband and a father, I suppose, how do you balance all of that in your life? Like, for Brendo and I, we're new parents, we're new dads, and just balancing one business, a wife and a beautiful bub, that's really, really difficult in itself. So how do you manage everything else you do?
What's interesting is I've been married for over 15 years. My wife got pregnant, I think, in year 2. But I had a miscarriage with twins, and then no children until about just under 3 years ago. She got pregnant again. I had twins. I'm also a twin, by the way. I have a twin sister. So I've got these 2 incredible children, Isa and Zidane, who are just about to turn 3. So I became a parent a little later. But having said that, everyone says to me, there's a really common question now: how do you balance? But the question is, who said you need to balance? Because I don't think it's really about balance, because you'll never achieve that. It's almost impossible. So what I did was this. I realized that, every family has a role and responsibility, I feel. I feel that I have to spend time bringing my children up, no question about it. But I also have to be smart enough to understand that in my case, for example, I'm the income earner in my family mainly, and that I have to start thinking of legacy, generations. I'm going to start planning what I'm going to do. So if I love my work, I think that's a key factor. Your balance comes in automatically. For example, my wife never ever complains that I don't give time, because she knows that I love my work so much and I'm doing it for the family. I have guilt issues, no question about it. Oh God, I have guilt issues that should I be spending more time? But then I look back in my childhood, my father didn't really spend hours and hours with me a day. He didn't. He kind of realized that I've got to build a foundation for my kids, and I'm going to do what that takes. As long as I'm there for the child, I'm supportive, I'm caring, I'm loving, and I have a framework of discipline, that means I'm being a good parent. So I think the balance has to come from what your definition of a good parent is first. And if it's a stereotypical, let's change our nappies together and let's feed them together, I don't know about that. I think it's far greater than that. I think every parent has a strength. I think, for example, my strength is I'm very calm as a person. If there's chaos around me, I don't panic. My wife gets a little hyper. So when there's hyper situations with the kids, I'm going to take care of that, because why would I want to give her a responsibility that she finds painful? So there's certain aspects of parenting that we've kind of decided that are very clear cut based on the personality type of who we are. So I think the balance is a really dangerous place to get to, because if you're not balanced, in your mind, you're unbalanced. And that means if you're unbalanced, you're going to spend all your life trying to get balance, and it's an impossible task, because what is balance in the first place? So this is a definition thing, I think.
That's a pretty interesting concept. I really like that. Don't you reckon, Brendo? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, for me, that's super profound. And I love that you positioned it like that, because that's something that I deal with, the guilt of not being there all the time. I know my wife's under a lot of pressure. I'm the income earner and spending all those hours outside of the house. And I feel like, should I be there more? How can I help out more? And this is quite a common theme, and I don't think that there's one way to navigate it. Everyone's different. Like you said, that every family has different strengths between the partners about how to do it. But it just saying that you also carry that guilt. For me, I'm really glad you shared it, because it's something that I relate to a lot.
Yeah, I mean, but what I do, I'm not going to use the word justify, but I kind of make myself feel good, because I realize that I'm not sitting on the beach enjoying myself while my wife's at home or, busy with the kids. I'm out there, trying to build something for my family. So I'm doing my part of the deal, in the sense that, and this is a conversation with myself, by the way, not with anyone else. But it's, because I believe I'm an achiever. As an achiever, you always want to do the best you can do. And sometimes the best you can do is not to do. Because the pressure of not doing can also bring you down. Because I'm a firm believer of state, and I give you my definition of what I mean by state. It doesn't mean I'm thinking positive, because that's a silly idea. It means what I'm thinking and my actions are in congruence. So if I am thinking, for example, I'm going to take care of my health, and my actions are eating 3 donuts, then obviously I'm out of state. So if I say I'm going to be wealthy, for example, and I'm sitting at home watching Netflix, then I'm out of state. So my state means that I'm working, I'm producing something, it's going to benefit my family, and I'm doing value. So if my wife is at home, I am going to do the best I can, but I will not feel guilty because I'm not tripping around on a beach, doing nothing.
Yeah, I love that. So you spoke a little bit about your upbringing, one of 7 living in a 3-bedroom apartment. But could you tell us about your relationships within your upbringing, how that's influenced your journey into what you do now?
Oh, huge. See, I think, like, even now, I'm very lucky. I'm going to use the word luck, but I think it's probably upbringing. That all my brothers, there's actually 7 of us, my mum, dad, and there's 5 of us, brothers, sisters. And we're all like this. We're like super close. If someone fired a bullet, everyone would jump in front of the bullet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They would, without any question. And we're completely different to each other. It's not that we're similar in upbringing, because I think parenting in itself is, everyone thinks that I've got to, my parents didn't send me to painting classes and karate classes just to make sure I become a better person. What they did the most, and I kind of realized that today, is that dining table, believe it or not. It's the dining table where everyone would eat together, and my father would tell us and my mother would tell us stories about relatives and people of the past who had done really well. Like my grandfather was a very poor man in India, and when he died, he was like a legend, right? And he came from nothing to nothing. And I didn't know nothing about him, but I know everything about him because those stories when we were children. So I think what I was, my father was the bad cop, my mother was the good cop. So there was a bit of a balance. My father, I don't remember, I know he was strict. I don't know whether, in Indian families, parents give their kids a good beating if they need to. It's just the way it is, believe it or not. Not so much now. But I don't remember getting beaten by my dad in any way. But 9 o'clock meant 9 o'clock. So we kind of respected that. If he said 9, we'll be at home at 9 o'clock. He also, when we were young, we were not really allowed to play out much outside of the home. My father said, bring all your friends home, no problem. But until you're a little older, I'm not going to let you go and play on the streets or go out. So that kind of controlled the thinking of who we were associated with. So, but overall, there was a good, like iron fist in a velvet glove. If I was to give you a medal. So we're not overly loving, not overly do whatever you want to do, but there's a tremendous amount of love. Like my parents are right now visiting me in Mumbai. I'm in Mumbai at the moment, and they've been with me 3 months now, and it's like super duper. It's a blessing because I just think, parenting and being a father or a wife or a mother or a husband is really all about instilling great values. And I know people say that, but it's not instilling values by talking, it's by action. I watched people around me. I saw that when my father took something from the shop and he forgot to pay for it, I saw him go back and give the money. I saw good behaviors and I would witness them, like charity. We would go and feed poor people when we were young. It was from a young age. So I saw poverty and I thought, whoa, how lucky am I to feed? So I think a lot of that kind of stuff was very powerful, no question.
So Arfeen, so this is a big thing now because, some people are blessed to come from amazing, loving, welcoming, incredible families. And I know Brendo and we both have loving parents, and we're so blessed and lucky because of that. But there are some people out there that repeat the mistakes of their parents before them because they have no education outside of that. So for people who are listening to this, they want to become a better dad, but they have those traumatic experiences, those experiences of the past that have shaped them who they are today. Your positive experiences have shaped you to be this incredible human, and likewise have shaped Brendo and I. But what about the negative experiences of those traumatic experiences that some other individuals have had? How do they get out of that rut, that hamster wheel of negativity?
That's a great question. And there's a really simple answer to this. And the problem with the answer, that it is so simple that somebody may not believe it. So I'm going to before I give the answer, I'm going to give a little explanation of how I worked this out. So I did a little experiment once. I got 50 people, 25 on each side. I gave them $100 each. I told one group of people to spend it on themselves. I told the other group of people to spend it on other people. And what we're trying to do, we're trying to measure happiness, see which group is happier. So when they came back, using whatever method we had, we measured the happiness of those people. And we found that they were equally happy. There was no difference between the two. So we were kind of thinking, what the hell? Then what we did, we measured it later again, and we found out that the people that spent money on other people, the longevity of their happiness was like 1,000 times more than the people that spent money on themselves. Now, why did I do this experiment? Because some people used to come to my seminars and have massive breakthroughs, and others would come and have the breakthrough, and 2 days later go back to the same habit. So I'm kind of feeling guilty about, or conscious, I'm taking money. Why are people not changing? So I want to work out why. And I discovered something really amazing, and I'm going to share that with you, and I'll give you the answer to your question in that. So I realized there were two types of people. There were one group of people that are called focused in people, and there's one group of people that are called focused out people. Now, the focused in people are the ones that are focused on themselves. I want to be rich. I want to be happy. I want to be successful. Like I will call the selfie people, the ones who say me with a self, right?
Yep.
So the whole world has now become what I call more focused in. And the focused out people are the ones that are saying, what can I do to make the world a better place? What can I do to make my family better? Their whole focus is more outwardly rather than me. They occasionally look at themselves just to make sure everything is in order, but their time is spent outside. So I realized that the people that are focused out have very, very high self-value because they're giving something. And when someone is able to give something, I don't mean money, I mean advice, love, care. When they're giving something, the brain automatically assumes that that person, I'm a person of self-value because I'm giving something. When I'm taking something, me, it means I don't have it, therefore I need it. So what I say to parents who have come from a tough background or children that come from a tough background is that we got to go focused out. How do we do that? Is to become a person of contribution. Meaning that if you spend sufficient amount of time contributing, doing something outside of yourself, automatically your values, your focus becomes far larger than it becomes on you. Because if you focus deeply enough on yourself, you are going to find things that are wrong. Everyone is imperfect. But when you focus outside, you now become more of a person who's saying, I'm giving you something rather than please give me something. And I think that can change parenting. And that's why at a young age, my parents came from a very difficult background, poverty, living practically on the streets to becoming successful. And I think what made a difference was that giving, contribution. And contribution is become so kind of a positive term now that the real meaning has gone. So there's contribution and there's gratitude. Again, another very popularly used word. And gratitude is something that you don't write in a journal. It's something that you can feel deep in your cells that you know about, that you can't even describe in a journal, even if you could. So I think that those parents that are going to come from a background that's very tough, if they start with their kids, if they have children, or their relationship to go towards contribution, it will change their world because it changes their own self-value. That's the way I would do it. It's a bit of a longer way around, but it's a more sustainable long-term view on how to do that.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like that's deep on so many levels. You said it's simple, but it's so deep, and I can just see the applications of that in my own life, where I've had my most fulfillment not based on what I earned, but what I was able to give, or an act of service without expecting anything in return, and that brought the most happiness to my life for sure.
I'll tell you a short story, a metaphor I heard once. There's a man who passed away, goes to the pearly gates of heaven. And God said, we're a bit confused whether, you're good or bad. So we're going to show you both. You want to see hell or you want to see heaven first? So he goes I want to see hell first. He goes to hell. The doors open and he sees rivers of milk, of honey, diamonds, apples. It's beautiful. Food everywhere. But he sees that everybody's got a piece of wood strapped under their arm. So their hands are out and they're trying to grab the food, but they can't eat it because they can't reach the food. And everyone's dying and rotting. So he goes, oh my God, I've got to get out of there. So he goes, take me to heaven. He goes to heaven, opens up exactly the same thing. There's food, everyone's strapped up, but the difference was everybody's feeding each other. So as a result, it becomes heaven. So that's what I'm talking about in terms of contribution. So we may live in an environment that is the same, hell, heaven, the same. But how you're looking at it is a different perspective. And I think that's the most profound thing about parenting. I don't think people even need to read parenting books, to be frankly honest, Your gut instinct tells you whether something is right or wrong, and to work upon that. That's the way I kind of looked at it.
Man, that is very profound because there's all these perceptions of reality, life, heaven, hell, earth, and whatnot, or whatever's in between. And it's really the perception in which you place on what is hell, what is heaven, what is the plane in which we live in, the existence in which we live in. It's all based in the things between your ears, your mind. So you must have a really, really powerful mindset to be able to do that, and even just to change. And I think that whole idea of contribution, it's simple enough to understand, but I think it's harder to put in place because you really need to want to change.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I'll give you an example. I have this personality assessment that I do for people, and it produces a report where it shows them their 5 states that they spend their time in, and then it works out where they spend most of their time. So you got very good state, good state, average, below average, destructive. And we find that almost 80% of people spend their time between average and below average, or average and good. And if you read the description of that particular state for that particular person, and you say, what kind of life would that person be leading? It's almost predictable what kind of behavior they would have, what kind of money they would have. So the key is not really to improve your skill or earn more money, is to raise your state to a higher level so you perceive the world in a far more better way. I came to India, everyone said to me, you're crazy, why come to India? The whole world is trying to go from India to London. Why have you come here? And I said, oh my God, there's so much possibility here. They said, you're mad. And it took me a long time, but oh my God, the land of opportunity. If there's one, it's got to be here right now. So it's the perception. I could have gone, you know what? They're right. You know, the country's underdeveloped. There's lots of pollution. There's cows walking down the street. You know, there's people pooing on the side, you know, on the railway tracks. You know, it's a bit of a crazy place. But amongst that chaos is absolute beauty. So everything is a matter of the way you look at the world, your state. Everything is state. I just firmly believe that.
Yeah, and that's awesome, and we get to draw a bit out of this because one thing that I want to ask is, this is something which is great that, you know, you're able to teach yourself, and as an adult, something that you're able to develop, and obviously teach other people to develop that abundant mindset. But as a parent, and obviously your kids are still almost 3, you know, so not raising teenagers or anything yet. But what would you say for a new parent, helping their kids early to develop that abundant and growth mindset? What would be the most important things that you'd suggest for a new parent?
Okay, so I think for the first 5 years, the kids are absolutely in control of you. They cry, they eat, they poo, they do whatever they do, and then, you know, your parents are chasing. So at that time, trying to instill discipline in a child by saying what is right and wrong is insanity, because they don't know the difference. So my kids, for example, believe it or not, at 7:30 in the evening, they're 2.5, they're just turning 3. They say, okay, we're going to bed. Good night. They go to bed, switch the lights, and go to sleep.
At 2.5. Wow.
At 2.5. Right?
Kids like, oh, we've got to wait another 18 months.
Right. So
but it does get better.
my friends come and they go, how did you do that? I said, I didn't do anything. All I did is that at 7:30 every day, I went and laid down in their bed next to them, and I went to sleep. And they just came and went to sleep. And I get up and I would leave. And now they go to bed at 7:30. In fact, now they say to me, Dad, turn the lights off and go out. It's hilarious. It's absolutely brilliant. Right?
That's actually, I'm going to write this down. This is actually a super great hack. In fact, as soon as we get off this call, I'm going to go tell my wife, this is exactly what we're going to do. This is how we're approaching bedtime from now on.
So yeah, and you'll be surprised, right? So in their bedtime, I tell them a story, and the story is all about, at the end, that the prince goes to sleep. They always end off with a sleep, because I want them to sleep. So I think kids between the age of 1 and 5 are very observant, right? My kids, for example, speak English. They speak Hindi. They speak Marathi, which is a language I can't even speak, because one of the people I have working for me speaks in Marathi, and they're learning Arabic. So they can speak and they can communicate, not perfectly yet because they're still tiny, but they can have a conversation. Now, I'm now thinking, this is amazing. At this age, they can absorb anything. So what must I do? I must be a good demonstration of a parent, not a good teacher yet. Because they're too small. They don't get it. No, so, and then I think from 5 till about 11, you are in charge. You have the ability now to instill discipline, rules, and I think between 1 and 8, the values should be instilled. 1 and 5, and then 5 till 11, it's more about, you know, some kind of structure, some kind of a lot more intelligent storytelling, you know, and doing as I do, not as I say, which is kids are not. People are smart. Like my kids, for example, if you keep a mobile phone near my kid, he won't pick it up. He's not even interested in it. They won't touch it.
Wow.
And if you, for example, my kids watch 10 minutes of TV a day, and they turn it off themselves. They don't want to watch it because they don't even know what it is. They don't know that there's videos on an iPhone yet. I'm gonna try to keep that away as much as I can, at least as much as I can, because and I take them out. They go to the park. They're always in the green. They're always out somewhere doing some crazy activity. So there's more physical, and like the Scandinavian model. And if you look at the Scandinavian model of schooling, up to the age of 14, there's no exams, like no exams at all, because it's all practical learning. So I'm trying to do something a bit different to what everyone does, because I think, and I'm really enjoying it. It's like people say parenting is really hard. And I say, really? Really? Where?
Yeah. I think that's really, really cool because Brendo and I, we probably call ourselves more conscious parenting in the sense that we don't just like to go and follow the secular norm of society. We like to try things different. In fact, that's the whole reason we sparked this podcast,
100%.
where we are sick and tired of everybody just following what everybody has done, and we want to find out how high-performing men are raising high-performing kids and how they balance that dichotomy of life and children.
Well,
and
I love you guys because even I'm going to say something really crazy now. I don't know if it's crazy, but I am not going to send my kids to a traditional school. No way, ever.
Amazing.
Because I realized that today, when I was at school, I didn't have Siri and I didn't have Google. Right? So I had to remember stuff. Today, I don't need to remember stuff. I need more application. I need to be able to use stuff. So I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I still have about a year's time. So either I'm going to set my own school up, which is something I'm going towards, which is going to be more towards a Scandinavian model, which I think is really amazing, or I don't know, but I'm not putting.
I think that's fantastic. The Google thing, because I agree with. I like what you mentioned right at the start. You weren't a great student. You failed stuff. I was one of those kids that was horrible at school, but always told you were such a waste of talent, because if it wasn't something which I just loved, which was music or gym, I was an athlete as well. I was like, well, I'm not going to use this stuff, so I don't need to be here, and I'd wag a lot of classes. Now I look back and I'm like, I don't need to know this stuff because it's on my phone. I can search it within a couple of seconds to get the answers that I want.
How much do you remember?
I don't think I remember I had 36 unexplained absences in year 12, and I had to do work experience to get my year 12. That's what I remember of year 12.
Yeah, because I don't remember anything from school.
No.
I mean, I think
maths and English.
Yeah, I think the teaching communication you learn quite relatively well at school just because you're in social communities with your with your peers.
Yeah, I agree with
That's
that.
about it, right? I agree with you guys. I don't think school isn't built for the modern man or the modern woman at all. It's built for the workforce to teach repetition and to follow a cycle of the past.
It's a memory test.
And yeah, exactly. And I'm always looking at different and open to so many different, more I suppose modern ways of teaching. We look at so many different opportunities.
The entrepreneurial daycare of Ryan Tuckwood, remember?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking, I was watching. I don't know if you remember that there was a show, Richie Rich or something, some movie called Richie Rich.
Yeah, I remember Richie Rich, Macaulay Culkin. Yep.
Yeah, and they go to a school where everyone's learning the stock market and they're learning all this. Right? I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. What if I started a young, institute for leaders, who by the time they reach 11 have written a book, running their own podcast, started a small online business, stuff that's going to be practical. I don't know. But I just think, the biggest fear for me for school is not the education. Actually, it's not that. It's the people that they're going to be associating with. I don't know who's in school, and with the kind of stuff that's going on nowadays, with easy access to drugs and all that kind of stuff, it's kind of a little worrying that when I talked about earlier, the people that you associate with have a profound effect on you. That's where my main concern actually, not even in the education. If they learn all that stuff at school, there's no harm in it. It's okay to learn, but it's that environment of be quiet, listen to me. And if you misbehave, if you fail, you're an idiot. And if you pass, you're great. And it's not like, I'd rather have exams where they give you the questions and say, right, go research, get the answers and write them down. So that means I'm learning something rather than memorizing it.
Or even an open book exam where the answers are in front of you. You just need to learn the skills to be able to find the information, because that's half the problem. People don't know how to find the information. We've been taught and inclined to believe that if we don't know the information, if we can't recall it, then we can't find the information. So they don't teach us the skills to be able to find it online, in books, whatever. It's really, really a shame. And I was like you guys. I failed a lot of my classes. Well, I should have failed a lot of my classes. In fact, I got 2 master's degrees, not because I was exceptional by any means. I was a C student, in fact, probably below a C student, but what I had going for me was my ability to communicate and create relationships with the professors. And they liked me so much that they bumped me into master's degrees. I taught university students and lectured. I had tutoring sessions. I taught seminars, and I was a C student. And
Wow.
I'm teaching the new doctors, the nurses. Crazy, but it was my ability to leverage communication and relationships. I hope this doesn't go out to the universities. I might get in trouble for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, but based on what you just said, I think there's something that's kind of come in my mind now. If you was to ask me, what is one skill you would give your children, for example, above anything else? And I would say that's the ability to socialize and communicate with people. That is, if I could give that gift to them, they will find their way in this amazing world, because it is all about the ability to be able to connect with people and speak. I really think, look, if I look back at where I've come from and my background and knowledge, I should not be doing what I'm doing now in any shape or form, because I don't have the credentials. I was a very shy kid. What I learned over time was the ability to express myself, not speak, in fact. I don't have a fear of telling people. If I was broke today, for example, and you ask me, how are things going? I'd say, I'm broke. I wouldn't care. Because that ability to be true to yourself and express and speak and connect with people comes only from you being an authentic self. And I try to, like, my kids came up to me, they said, Dad, look at my frock. My dress is so nice. I said, it's beautiful, but not as beautiful as you are inside.
That's
Oh,
good.
that's lovely.
You get
I
what I'm
love
saying? There's always a reflection back on their character. So if they say, look at how fast his car goes, not as fast and far as you're going to go in your life.
Oh, that's amazing.
I love that approach.
Yeah.
I don't think that we've actually got, obviously we've, got so much from people, and there's always little nuggets and pieces of gold. And it's like, I can see how that can change the outcome of my parenting and my child's life just by implementing that little nugget in the way that I communicate. And that's
Yeah,
perfect.
and it makes, because what I think is, right now I can see they're becoming more me. Look at my glasses, look at my clothes, look at my shoes, which is fine and it's nice. They're trying to feel proud, but there has to be a reference back to character. It always has to go back to character, because that is the foundation of who you are as a person, right? If I start believing I'm like, I'll give an example. When my kids were very tiny, my wife used to take to these sensory classes where they would sing songs, and they're really nice. And there was one particular track that used to play on there. It could say, hello to the sun, whatever. It's a really nice track, right? For kids. And now my kid is 3 years old. The moment I put that track on, he goes into a trance.
Ah,
So I'm now thinking, there's so much sponge ability right now for that kid, that if you focus on, look how good my grades are. I remember my dad tell me one thing. He said to me, you failed your math 3 times. And he said, I don't care, but just remember, learn how to count money.
Yeah, wow.
I thought, wow, that's a pretty good one, So I've never scolded for failing. There was always like an element of, it's okay, but make sure. And it went back down to my character. So I think, especially nowadays, I see a lot of people posting stuff on Instagram and Facebook about their kids and the way they are, which is cool. No problem with that. Well, I took my kids to Egypt, right? Now they were 2 years old. They saw the pyramid. Now they're not going to remember that when they grow up, more than likely. But I know their unconscious mind will keep that beautiful experience somehow in a reference. And while I was there, I was saying, you know what? This pyramid was built by this pharaoh who was a bit of a tyrant as well. But if 5,000 years ago, if you build something with a strong foundation, your life can be good. My kids probably thinking, what is he talking about? He got a clue.
Yeah.
But who knows, no harm in doing that.
Arfeen, I have to ask, because I know Brendo's got a question that he likes to ask all of our guests that we ask just in a moment. But before we go there, because that's a very big shift of topic, I want to go back to authenticity, because you mentioned authenticity, and then circling back all the way to the start, you were talking about building a legacy for your children and for your family, and that's why you go to work each day. You have a mission. You're driven by your passion for your family. But can you tell me a little bit about that? Because you've already made you made multiple millions of dollars, right? You could retire tomorrow, I'm sure, and not have to work another day, and live off the businesses that you've created, and I'm sure the financial security that you've created within that. But is there something greater that you do, or is it just for the money for your family?
Okay, first of all, when I first started, no question about it, the money. But then I realized that whether anyone likes it or not, money is important. Because what it does, it gives you choices. It just gives you more choices. So today, I built a business. My business makes money. But a legacy is very different to having money. Because if I have money, and my money is in the account, for example, or I've got a few assets, that is not a legacy. A legacy is to build something that you can, if you want to, pass it down to your next generation. You'll probably look back and find that all old wealth, I call old money, is generationally passed through family. New wealth normally survives if it survives 3 years, it will survive forever. But old wealth is normally generational. So you will find, I know someone who is a very, very wealthy guy. He runs a diamond company that does $1 billion a year. He's got kids. 2 of his kids are not interested at all. So they're studying at university. They're going to do their own stuff. But one kid.
I'm interested.
Yeah. One kid is interested. So I'm saying building legacy is about, it's probably, it's like, in my mind, I'm thinking, if I build this today and they can pass it on, what would happen 10 generations from now? What could we create? It's more like the pyramids. There's one pyramid that's got 8 levels. And I thought it was built at one time. But then I was told by the person there that every generation built one of the levels of that particular pyramid. And there were 9 generations. So everyone's building upon the foundation of the previous one. So I think legacy and if you wake up to make money and there's no business or there's no meaning behind the work, you'll never become rich. It's impossible. So, for example, Apple is a good example, whether anyone likes it or not. Apple makes really good products. Nothing goes wrong with Apple products. They work. So people are willing to pay double or triple the price of a normal phone for an Apple iPhone because you know that when you buy that, it's going to be value, it's going to be quality, it's going to be service. So they make their money not because they want to make money. They make their money because they produce a great product. And as a result, they get rewarded. So my legacy is that I built something really good that should reward me, and then I can give it to my kids. However, here's a few asterisks to these terms and conditions. My kids, for example, on my will, I've written a will, and everyone should write a will, whether you have any money or not, still write whatever you've got. My kids will not touch a penny of my inheritance until they're 40 years old.
Beautiful.
Yeah, okay.
They're not going to touch it. Even if they're in deep trouble, they cannot touch that money. They will not be able to sell their properties, that if I have properties that I pass on to them, until they're 40 years old. So they can get nothing until they hit 40. And if by 40 they're a bunch of idiots, they'll ruin it anyway. But most people by 40 tend to kind of start chilling out and start being a bit more sorted. So I've got a few conditions attached, and I don't think that legacy should just be passed. It should be earned.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's fantastic. I mean, the pharaohs of Egypt is a clear indicator of that, right? So if you're going to build on the pyramid of the generation before you, you have to build as strong as a foundation as the generation before you, because the next generation is building on yours. So if yours is weak, your legacy is gone. Yeah.
And one last thing I'll say about this particular area, when it comes to legacy, a lot of people have this challenge that they will say, I've come from a disadvantaged background, and see, everyone has disadvantages. Some of them are more visual, like somebody could be a separated in one-parent family, someone could be, in a drug addiction. But the focus has to go outwards again, because, everyone has challenges in their life. If I was to ask you got challenges in life? I bet you have, because so have I. So now, if I keep focusing on what my challenges are, even if a diamond flew past me with wings on, saying, I'm a diamond, I'll never see it, because I'm focused so much on where I am. So I think there's got to be a radical shift of people by focusing out. And the way to do that for me was to hang around with the right kind of people. It's going to come back to that right at the end eventually as well. Who you hang out with, you are the sum of the people you associate with. It's as simple as that.
Definitely. Yeah, I love that. And that's obviously another saying that we hear so much, especially if you're in a personal development world, that you're basically the average of the 5 people that you hang out with. And I agree. I mean, I know through school, times that I was probably a little bit more wayward, I definitely was surrounded by these people, which were the influence as well. And it's again why this sort of this whole podcast came about. Is we're like, well, we want to learn from people that we consider successful, not only in business but as dads, and how do we help share that and inspire dads to reach higher as dads and in life as well.
I've got a friend of mine who's a really big film star in India. Like he's like the Tom Cruise of India, so to speak. He's got like billions and billions of fans around the world. And one day I said to him, he goes to me, "Can you come with me? Let's go to LA. I've got some work there. Why don't you come with me?" I said, "Okay." So I went, packed my bags, went to the airport, got to the airport, security comes, they take him through. And I said to him, "You're so lucky." He goes, "Why?" I go, "You didn't have to stand in the immigration." He goes, "What immigration?" I said, "The lines that everyone's standing in." He goes, "What lines?" And I'm thinking, okay. Then he sat down, went straight to first class. I said, "Have you ever seen the back of the plane?" He said, "No." Now, the reason I bring that story up, it was so normal for him to live in that environment that it became just normality. So if you're hanging around with people where the normality is complaining, moaning, griping, whinging, that there's no money, it's very hard, the world is difficult, then that becomes the way you think. And, when I went there, it kind of opened my mind up thinking, holy shit, this guy can't even see some of the stuff that's around him because all he can see is what he knows, which is a positive, of course. And on the emotional side, where he's very powerful because he does a lot of charity work, a lot of good acts of kindness. So I know he's aware of the humanity side of things. But if you're, for example, if I took you out one day and I now put you in the company of 5 billionaires and I said, right, you need to hang out with them for 6 months, your whole life would change. Your whole mindset would change. You'd have no choice.
Most certainly. Look, they say your network is your net worth. And they also say, a lovely saying that I came about the other day, which is, show me your crowd and I will show you your future. That was by Dan.
Oh, brilliant. I'm going to steal that. I have to steal that one. I don't know where you got that.
Show me your crowd and I will show you your future. I think that's so amazing. And if you do hang with the great people, your future is always going to be positive. But if you hang with people that are pulling you back, pulling you down, well, where do you think it's going to go?
And then people ask the question, where will I find these great people? That's a common question I get asked. There's a lot of great people out there. If you're a hunter and you're a searcher, you will find people. You need one. You need 4 to carry your body to the grave. So at least get 4 good people around you that you could be trusted to go there. You know what I'm trying to say? A bit of a morbid thought, but what I'm trying to say is that you need 4 at least.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good way of putting it, and I love that with that close connection. Now, I'm going to shift gears a little bit because we're going to come towards the end, and there's 2 questions to go. One of them I always ask, one of them Ken always asks. So I grew up in the fitness industry, so health and fitness is super, super high up on my values. And obviously, becoming a dad and things change and more responsibilities and time and all that, and we all know the dreaded dad bod, if we want to call it that, although it's not just physical as far as aesthetics related. So you, as a high-performing dad, how do you choose to take care of your health and fitness?
Okay, so that's a brilliant question for me because when I started coaching this film star, he met me and he goes to me, "You're such a great coach. Why are you so fat?" Holy shit! What do I say to that? And he goes, "Look, you're so good." He goes, "I'll tell you what. I'm going to give you a program. Let's see if you can do it." So, of course, I said, "Yeah, give it to me." So he gave me this target of basically burning 1,000 calories a day and losing 1 kilo or 1 kg, I don't know what it is in pounds, of fat per week.
Yep.
Using a certain process. So I was eating more food than I ever ate in my life. And I lost about 14 kilos in 10 weeks.
Wow.
Now, what did I learn from that? I learned from that it is really hard to do. That's what I learned first. But the biggest thing I learned was that the food is where the magic was.
Yeah,
You know,
that's right.
I just it was the food. So what I've done now is I've got my eating habits are really good. Lucky for me, I don't have a sweet tooth. I don't like sweets. Chocolates, I'm not a big fan. So I've got really good eating habits now. So and Indian food, for example, is dangerous in calories, like dangerous.
But it's so delicious.
It is so delicious.
So I do my, I normally eat what I call continental food or like grilled chicken and stuff like that throughout the whole week. I go spinning. I'm a big spinning fanatic. I spin 6 days a week.
So spinning, you mean like cycle, like spin class?
Cycle, yeah.
Yep.
Cycle, yeah.
Gotcha.
Absolutely love it.
Yep.
And now that we're on this podcast, I'm going to make a declaration, which I have to keep to now.
Boom, amazing.
I'll do it now. I've set a target now because I've never had a ripped physique in my life. So I've set a target that within the next 4 months, I'm going to be ripped for the first time in my life. So I'm saying
That's
it
epic.
publicly.
Are you happy for us to just stay in touch with you and keep you accountable to that, Arfeen?
Yeah, absolutely. Do that. Because that will put a little bit more focus on me getting the job done. And I'm going to do that. I've already, it's Ramadan right now, so I'm fasting. But I've been going to the gym like 1 hour before the fast opens and doing 600 calories of burnout. And I've lost a tremendous amount of weight on my stomach over Ramadan. And so now I've set a target because, see, I'm in the public eye. I want to feel good. And my greatest ever achievement of my life, believe it or not, was my weight loss. More than anything I've ever accomplished in anything I've ever done in my life.
Wow.
That's so cool.
It changed my whole meaning about who I believed I was.
Yeah,
I
that's
felt
so
good as a
cool.
person.
And that's why I think this question is important because after I became a dad, I'd sold a business. We built another business during this time, which was a big gym. So there was a lot of work. And for the first time, I was in the worst shape of my adult life, like 4 months after having my baby. And when I didn't realize till it was done. And then all of a sudden, I started to feel bad about myself and depressed because I wasn't living aligned to my values. So then I said, no, something's got to change. And I went through those. And I've grown up in the fitness industry. I should know better. But I had to go through a change. And it was when I reached this goal at the end, not just the physical and feeling good about myself, although that does help about the way you look, but it was the sense of accomplishment that I was disciplined to stick to something. And it was that level of sacrifice.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, it was, I remember the first time I had lost weight, I went to pick my wife up from the airport, and without exaggerating, she walked straight past me because I had completely, in fact, I don't have a picture here. I'll send it to you anyway. You'll be horrified. You go, what?
Yeah, wow.
We should do a before and after photo when we post you on the socials.
Yeah.
We'll have Arfeen before and after.
We'll circle back.
Yeah.
But,
So I mean, this is.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you finish. You go.
No, say
Okay.
I'm
This is my last question. This is a big one. All right, so it might require a little bit of thinking. But what is one question no one has ever asked you around either being a dad, generating wealth, running a business? I always throw in balancing time, but I know we don't talk about balancing time now, so we can scratch that. So what is one question no one has ever asked you around being a dad, generating wealth, running a business that you secretly wish someone had asked you?
I tell you, there's one question I do want to get asked that hardly I ever get asked is, how are you? Are you okay?
Let me ask you that question. How are you? Are you going okay?
I'm absolutely okay. The only thing that I would, if I'm going to be authentic to myself. I would definitely want more, like a hand on the shoulder. Just a bit more of that.
So does that more
For my
support?
wife. For my
your
wife.
Yeah.
Not anybody else. They're like probably more recognition that I'm doing a good job. I think it's important for a guy, especially I'm talking from my perspective. When you're flying through life and you accomplish something, the people most closest to you are the ones that should. Like, I know my wife praises me behind my back to everyone. I know that because my friends keep telling me. But it's not even a praise. It's more like, my God, you're doing it. Oh, amazing. because I think it really, really it kind of gives you that a bit more of a boost. Like, you know what? Yes. And it's not, I'm not, it's very hard. It's a very fine line between praise and approval. It's like, is she happy with what I'm doing? I want her to be happy. And that acknowledgement kind of makes you feel, she's happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that. And I think that's a very innate, masculine trait that we seek in our spouses, our partners. We just want, I mean, really, quite frankly, both approval and praise. I want approval that you love what I do and that you're happy for me to do what I'm doing, and you praise me for it, and you're really proud of me, because that feeds us, that gives us energy, that gives us life.
Great. Like sometimes you hear statements like, "Oh, you don't know, I've been slogging away all day at home," and I'm thinking to myself, "Well, I'm not partying on the beach." You know what I'm trying to say. So, but I get it. I get it. But at the same time, I think what a lot of people don't understand is that men are emotional as well. Men have emotions.
Yeah.
And they do. And they it's very important that those emotions are tapped. Otherwise, they become machines. They become kind of indifferent. And that's
we're not just ATMs. We're not just ATMs. We have emotions too.
I mean, whoa, that's a great. I'm going to take that one as well, right? We're not just ATMs. We're not. It's a really good point. And sometimes people get upset with that. Oh, you can't say that. But it's true. Like, for example, a friend of mine, I'll give you one really funny example. A friend of mine went out to his wife and said, look, we're going through a bit of a bad time through budgets and money's a bit tough for me right now. So we've got to cut down. And about a week later, she comes out with an itinerary for a 2-country holiday.
Oh, wow.
And he was saying, was she listening to me? And he goes, it was the first time ever I opened up and I said, look, I'm going through a tough time. And it was as if she never heard anything and she came up with an itinerary. That's really funny.
That's so amazing. That's another thing. Like, you've said so many things, which are just those gold nuggets, and some things in my life that I find relatable because, I mean, you spoke about the guilt, that sense of guilt, and I said, yep, I know that. I can relate to that. What you just said is so profound, and I want to be careful. I know that you were very vulnerable, so I'll try and be equally the same, but being a bit careful with how I present it as well. So I think that the stereotype or the perception is that, and I feel it of my wife and how much of not a burden, but the drain and the stress and, taking care. And we don't have family near us, so it's very much by herself. But then for me, I leave early in the morning and I don't get home until late. I'm drained. I know Ken works hard. I know I work hard. I leave everything on the table whilst I'm at work, and then I come home and I take care of that baby. And it's very much, it's normal for her to be drained. But sometimes I think, like what you said, I just want the tap on the shoulder, because I know I'm like, hey, I'm giving all of myself and I'm tired. I'm burning as well. So yeah, I really do feel that.
And I think that tap on the shoulder, what it does, it's like a thrust of a rocket. It kind of makes you go, bang! I'm gonna go and do this 10 times more. Otherwise
it gives you that energy.
It
gives you that spark.
Yeah, it's a spark. It's like you start thinking, is anyone even noticing? And everyone loves recognition. It's a human need to feel significant.
Yeah.
It's not that they don't want to show significance. They probably, like, one of my friends called me up and said to me the other day, I've just realized I've never asked you how you are. How are you? And I said, why have you never asked me? Because I always make an assumption that you're okay. Right? And I thought, wow, that's a pretty nice thing to have about me. But every human being must have a couple of people around them that they can put their shoulders on, to lean on. Everyone needs it. Anyone that says to me, I don't need anyone, I can do it by myself, that's a whole load of BS of the highest. It's impossible.
Man, they're so good. I feel like this is something that we could continue on for like a 3-hour conversation, and there's so much gold that we can bring up. But we did say that we'll keep it to 60 minutes, or under 60 minutes, and we're heading there now. So Arfeen, thank you so much for being on. Now, for anyone who wants to search for Arfeen, he's on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. That's Arfeen Khan, Arfeen Khan, or you can find him on YouTube at Success Unforgettable. That's right, the URL for YouTube, Success Unforgettable. Perfect. So you can find him on all those platforms. We're going to put them on the show notes. Ken, is there any last things? Arfeen, is there any last things before we
One thing
land
I
this
would
bird?
say, if you want, I'll be very happy to give your listeners or watchers a pre-personality test if you're interested. It'll be
That'd be
very
sensational.
intriguing. And in fact, I think both of you should take it as well. You'll be absolutely blown away with what I send you back. I'll happily send you a link for that. And it's been really good. I think you're doing a great job. I think this kind of podcast is really important. And if I can, I will also get some really amazing people lined up for you who I think would add value.
That would be
fantastic.
sensational. And guys, if you forgot where to find Arfeen, the simplest thing to do is literally just search his name on Google and everything will come up. Arfeen Khan, he's the real deal. You'll find him on Google. That's the easiest way to find him. All right, guys, thank you very much for listening. It's been an absolute pleasure and a blessing to have Arfeen on the show. But until next time, it's Ken and Brendo, and we'll see you soon.